The real power, I think, of this lifestyle, of getting to a place where you can set aside the finances because they're taken care of, is you can work on getting rid of friction in other places of your life. So, what are the things that you stress about? What are the things that give you anxiety? What are the things you don't enjoy doing? And you can slowly try to get rid of those.
And so your own journey, let's going back to that, is that you're a physician. You've done that full time, and in the 36-hour version of that, you've done the halftime version of that. Take us back to now. Like what is Doc G? What are you doing in life right now? What's working for you? What's your schedule look like? Because I think it'll be interesting for people who are earlier on the path and they're trying to figure out which one of those three brothers are they. What does it look like for you? Where have you found yourself right now?
So typically I spend 12 to 15 hours a week working as a hospice physician, which is mostly meetings. I help run teams that take care of people. So I advise the nurses, social workers, chaplains, CNAs, et cetera, but I don't see patients myself. I take phone calls from 9 to 5 most days, Monday through Fridays, but no nights or weekends. Above and beyond that, the rest of my week is spent doing things I'm passionate about. So I probably spend 20 to 30 hours a week on my podcast and blog. I do almost everything for the podcast except editing. So I have someone who does the first pass editing on my podcast, but otherwise I do all the graphics, all the marketing, pretty much everything else. I also work part-time on Stacking Benjamins. So I'm part of the Stacking Benjamins creative team. Earn and Invest, my podcast, is teamed up with Stacking Benjamins. And so Joe Salsihai, the creator of Stacking Benjamins, works on my podcast and I help work on his. Outside of that, exercise, reading. I read 3 books a week, usually for pleasure. I mean, I read a lot of personal finance books because I have people on my podcast, but otherwise I read mostly for pleasure. I spend maybe 3 or 4 hours a month, most months, doing real estate. And then it's just family and friends.
That sounds like a good prescription there. I like that schedule. I was thinking about my own. I think I spend easily 30 hours a week on the Coach Carson podcast. It's taken, I call this work, but here I am talking to Doc G, picking Doc G's brain. So I really feel guilty sometimes calling this work. And I have somebody else who edits the podcast for me. I've got a great assistant who's helping me do a lot of the marketing and promotion, and she happens to do a lot better job than I could ever do that. So that's nice. Yeah, and then the real estate goes in waves for me. I have a little bit bigger footprint in terms of the business model. And so, there's weeks it's an hour or two. There are other weeks, like right now, we just had a fire a week ago. People follow me on social. They've seen that. They had a fire. So I'm meeting, insurance claims people. And I've had, this time of year, we have a lot of turnover and little upheaval in college towns and rentals and what's going on. But keeps me on my toes. And plus for me, and I think you find this too, is that when we're talking about financial independence and real estate, in my case, being a practitioner is still fun. So I like having that very part-time job in real estate because it gives me almost like the experimental, the range to go in and try stuff and learn stuff. And I'm still a learner. And then I come back and share what I've learned. Oh, here's what I should have done with that fire claim. Here's what you could do. And it's just a fun cycle, go back and forth for me to practitioner, learner, teacher, back and forth.
And the real power, I think, of this lifestyle, of getting to a place where you can set aside the finances because they're taken care of, is you can work on getting rid of friction in other places of your life. So what are the things that you stress about? What are the things that give you anxiety? What are the things you don't enjoy doing? And you can slowly try to get rid of those. So, if friction is the negative thing, that's what we do, is we find ways to have less of that in our life. Does that mean life is perfect? No. I mean, I get stressed out about things. I have anxieties about other things. I mean, we're human beings. We're never going to get rid of all that completely. But I definitely feel like I have the space and time to do most things that I want. Like, you get to an age where you start to think and feel like time is slipping away, especially when you're working all the time. Like, I don't feel that at all. I feel like I have plenty of time to do things I want to do. There's no limit to the possibilities.
I'm glad you brought up time. It reminds me that I would butcher the quote if I tried it, but I always quote Thoreau, who talks about, the people who are in his case, they were back in, in Concord, Massachusetts in the early 1800s who were yoked to their farm. He compared people who are farming all the time, saying like you're more attached to your farm than the animals are who work on your farm. Like you're stuck there, and people would live lives of quiet desperation, he would say. And he's so eccentric, Thoreau was, but he was so ahead of his time talking about time. How having these huge quantums of time, and he would just apparently just roam around the countryside. People thought he was a little bit nuts. He had this big beard, and he would show up in Concord like, who is this guy? And so I don't think Doc G's doing it. He's not quite the Thoreau, wandering around like that, but he is, so to speak. We're both enjoy that lifestyle of not having, having a little bit of structure. At least I like some structure, but then having some flexibility and travel and family. Sure, it is nice that the quantums of time and flexibility of time is really how I would define the place I want to be, the prescription that allows me to change my mind and do different things. And it seems like that's also where you're finding yourself. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it is all about having the time and space to be whatever I'm going to be and to produce whatever I'm going to produce. And it's a true privilege. And that's, if I can say anything about finances, I've actually distanced myself from thinking as much as I can about the finances. But the one thing it allows you that space and time. And I think that's the most important part of that tool in your toolbox, to use your words.
I'd ask you do you have any advice or kind of some tips for those people who are kind of looking forward and really excited about moving forward with their journey to financial independence?
Yeah, I think, believe it or not, the advice is really simple. Learn. Go out and read books about it. Figure out how to invest. If you're interested in real estate, read about it. The amount of time you put in it today will be a few hours here and there, but that will last you and teach you, and you will build on that knowledge. So people get stuck on this idea, especially at the beginning, it's not possible or it's going to take too long. My argument is most things are possible with the right knowledge. Go out, read, learn, you'll figure it out. Just give yourself the time and permission to, look for those answers that you might be afraid to hear, right? Because we're all afraid that we're going to go out and find it's impossible and difficult. So we refuse to grow and try. And I think if you just get out there and do it, most likely you'll be successful.
I hope you enjoyed that video clip from my interview with Doc G from the Earn and Invest podcast. If you did, be sure to hit that like button. And if you want to listen to the full interview, I have a link to my podcast below in the video description. Also, please leave a comment. I'd love to hear if you have any questions, any suggestions, any comments that came up during this video. We could continue the conversation afterwards in the comment section. If you're new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button and the little bell. Every Friday morning, I release a new video, and I think you'll like what's coming in the future. And if you like this topic about financial independence and life after financial independence, I think you'll enjoy my interview with Mr. Money Mustache. You can see that above, or there's also a link to it in the video description. Thank you so much for watching Coach Carson TV. This is a channel all about investing in real estate, achieving financial independence, and doing more of what matters. My name is Chad Carson. Of course, you can also call me Coach, and I'll see you next time.